A knock in the rain. The rain was falling hard that night. The sky was dark, and thunder rolled across the hills like drums in the distance. Jake sat alone in his small cabin on the edge of the colony zone, fixing an old broken scanner. He liked the quiet. He didn't have friends, and he didn't want any. Machines didn't lie. People did. He took a sip of his tea, letting the warm steam touch his face. Outside, the wind howled like a beast in pain. Then, knock, knock. He froze. Someone was at the door. No one ever came out this far. The colony border was 10 miles away. The nearest neighbor lived even farther. He waited, thinking maybe it was just a branch hitting the wall. Then again, knock, knock, knock. Slow, soft, and strange. He stood up, walked to the door, and paused. Rain poured down in thick sheets. Lightning lit up the sky for a moment, and in that flash, he saw something outside. The shape, small, shaking. He opened the door, and there she was, an alien girl, maybe 17 or 18 in human years. Her skin was a soft violet, glowing faintly in the dark. Her clothes were torn, soaked through. Her hair was long, wet, stuck to her face. She looked up at him with wide silver eyes, full of fear. She didn't say a word. She just stood there, rain dripping off her chin, holding her arms around her thin body. Jake didn't move. Part of him wanted to shut the door. It could be a trap, a trick. Maybe she was dangerous. But something about her eyes. They weren't wild. They were empty. Not like a fighter. Like someone who had already lost. She opened her mouth, tried to speak, but no words came. Instead, she let out a soft whimper, like a whisper of pain, and collapsed right there on his doorstep. Jake cursed under his breath and dropped to his knees. Her body was cold. Too cold. "Damn it," he muttered, pulling her inside. He laid her down near the fire. She was shivering hard, her lips turning blue. He grabbed a dry blanket and wrapped her tight, then rushed to boil some water. His hands moved fast, but his mind was full of questions. Who was she? What was she doing here? And why did she come to his door? He brought the hot cup to her lips, helping her drink. She took small sips, her fingers shaking. She still hadn't spoken. "Can you talk?" he asked gently. She blinked, then nodded, just once. "What's your name?" Silence. Her eyes looked away. "Okay. Not ready. That's fine." He gave her some food, just warm broth, and watched her eat like she hadn't eaten in days. Her hands trembled as she held the bowl. She didn't say thank you. She didn't smile. She just ate. When she finished, she curled up in the blanket and stared at the fire. Jake sat nearby, unsure what to do next. "You're safe here," he said quietly. "Whoever's chasing you, they won't find you tonight." Her body tensed at those words. Chased. So he was right. He wanted to ask more, but he didn't. Not yet. Outside, the rain kept falling. Thunder rolled across the sky again. He stood up to check the door, locked it, double-checked it, then looked out the window and saw movement, a shadow, something large, standing just beyond the trees. He narrowed his eyes, but in the next flash of lightning, it was gone. He turned back toward the girl. She was asleep now, or pretending to be. He didn't know why she was here, didn't know if he could trust her, but he had seen the fear in her eyes, and somehow it reminded him of something deep inside, something he hadn't felt in years. He pulled the blanket up over her shoulders and whispered, more to himself than to her, "She has no name." When Jake woke up, the cabin was silent. The storm had passed. Morning sunlight peeked through the dusty window, casting soft lines of gold across the wooden floor. The fire had died during the night, but the warmth still lingered. He sat up slowly on the couch, his muscles stiff from sleeping in an odd position. Then he remembered her. His eyes moved to the corner of the room. She was still there, curled up under the old brown blanket, small and still. Her violet skin looked a little warmer now, not so pale. Her hair, dry and messy, covered part of her face. She looked peaceful in sleep, but not relaxed. One hand was clenched tight against her chest, as if she was holding something only she could see. Jake stood up quietly and walked to the kitchen. He warmed up some broth again, added a bit of crushed root for energy. Then he brought the bowl over and knelt beside her. "Hey," he said softly. "Time to eat." Her eyes fluttered open. For a second, she looked around like she didn't know where she was. Her breathing got fast. Her body stiffened. Then she saw him, Jake, and froze. He didn't move. He just held the bowl in both hands, waiting. A long moment passed. Then, slowly, she sat up. Her blanket slipped from her shoulders, revealing more bruises across her arms. Old wounds, new ones, thin scars that told a quiet, terrible story. She reached for the bowl. Her hands were still shaking, but not as bad as last night. She ate slowly, carefully, as if every drop mattered. "Feel better?" Jake asked. She didn't answer, just looked at him with those silver eyes. He waited, then tried again. "Can you talk now?" She blinked, then nodded. "What's your name?" She stared at the fire. Silence. "Do you understand me?" She nodded again. "But you won't tell me your name." Her voice came out so soft, Jake almost missed it. "I don't have one." He frowned. "Everyone has a name." "Not me," she said, her voice flat, tired. "They never gave me one." "Who's they?" She didn't answer. He sighed and leaned back on his heels. "All right. That's okay. We don't have to talk about it yet." She looked at him again, her face unreadable. "Why did you help me?" she asked. "Because you knocked on my door. You could have left me outside." "Yeah, I could have." She stared into the fire again. Her voice was quieter now, almost like she was talking to herself. "Most people do." Jake didn't reply. He didn't know what to say. After a moment, he stood up and walked to the table. He started working on a broken wrist scanner, trying not to look like he was watching her. But he was. She kept glancing around the room. Her eyes scanned everything. Walls, windows, exits, like she was planning escape, like she'd been trapped before. Maybe she had. "You're safe here," he said without looking up. "No one's coming. You don't know that." "True, but the forest is big. And my place is hard to find. They'd need a reason to come out here." She didn't respond. After a while, she walked slowly around the room, looking at the strange human objects, books, tools, small lights, a cracked photograph of Jake with an older man. She stopped at the photo. "Is that your father?" Jake looked up. "Was," he said simply. She nodded, didn't ask more. Then she looked down at her own hands. Her fingers were long, her nails chipped. She rubbed her wrist, where a faint mark was burned into the skin. It looked like a symbol, some kind of brand. "You were a slave?" Jake asked gently. She stiffened, then nodded once. "How did you get away?" "I ran." "From where?" Her lips pressed into a thin line. "A station. Outer Edge. They called it Unit 6. What do they do there?" "Break you." He said nothing. She sat down again, this time on the rug near the fire. She held her knees close to her chest. The light from the window made her skin glow softly. "You still want to know my name?" she asked. "Yeah. Can I choose one?" Jake smiled. "Of course." She thought for a long time, then said, "Maya." "Maya," he repeated. "That's a good name." "What does it mean?" "Illusion," he said, "but also something beautiful that doesn't need to explain itself." Maya gave a small, strange smile. "Then it fits." They sat in silence again for a while, a peaceful silence. But then Jake's comm unit beeped. A warning signal. He stood up and checked the screen. His blood ran cold. A scan drone had passed near the forest border, not far from his land. He looked out the window. Everything looked calm. Maya was staring at him. "What is it?" "Nothing," he said quickly, turning off the unit. But his heart was beating fast. Too fast. "Maya," he said, trying to sound calm. "If someone ever comes here, and they're not me, hide under the floorboards. There's a hatch under the rug. Stay there, and don't make a sound." She looked at him, her eyes full of old fear. "Will they find me?" "Not if I can help it." She nodded slowly. But deep down, Jake knew something had already begun. He didn't know what yet. But he knew this. Maya had brought danger with her. And he didn't care. Because now, she had a name. And he was going to protect it. "Teach me how to be safe." The next morning, Jake found Maya standing barefoot outside the cabin. The sky was still dark blue, the sun just starting to rise behind the tall trees. Dew covered the grass, and the air smelled like damp wood and fresh earth. She stood still, arms crossed, looking up at the sky like she was searching for something. He stepped out quietly, not wanting to startle her. "You're up early," he said. Maya turned her head slightly. "I couldn't sleep." Jake nodded. "Nightmares?" "No," she said softly. "Memories." He didn't ask more. They stood together in the cool air, listening to the sounds of the forest. Birds chirped far away, and water dripped from the cabin roof. It was peaceful, but beneath that peace, something tense lingered, like they both knew this wouldn't last. After a while, Maya spoke again. "Can you teach me how to be safe?" Jake looked at her. "Safe?" She nodded. "I don't know how to hide or fight. I always ran. That's all I know, but if they come again, I don't want to run anymore." He studied her for a moment. She meant it. This wasn't just fear, it was will. "All right," he said, "but it won't be easy." "Nothing has been easy," she said. Jake smiled a little. "Good point." They started with simple things. How to move quietly on the forest floor, where to step so you don't make noise, how to listen, to really listen, for things out of place. Maya was quick to learn. Her movements were light, natural. She could almost blend into the trees when she wanted to. Next, he showed her how to build traps. Not to catch people, but small ones. Early warning systems. Wires connected to empty cans or metal pieces that would rattle if someone crossed them. "You set these around the cabin," he explained, just outside the clearing. "If they move, we'll hear." She set up 3 by herself, and he was impressed. She didn't talk much while learning, but her eyes stayed focused, always watching, always memorizing. During breaks, he gave her small tasks: how to boil water properly, how to treat cuts with local herbs, how to bandage without using too much pressure. "This is how you survive," he said, "not with weapons, but with smart thinking." Maya nodded. "What about weapons?" Jake hesitated. "You want to learn that too?" She didn't answer. She just looked at him with steady eyes. "All right," he said finally, "but only if you promise something." "What?" "You never shoot unless it's to protect someone. Not for anger, not for hate." Maya held his gaze. "I promise." He gave her an old pulse pistol, low power, but good enough to learn. He set up empty bottles on a fallen log and showed her how to aim. She missed the first 5 times, then hit 2 in a row. She didn't smile. But Jake saw the way her shoulders relaxed just a little. Every evening, they sat near the fire. Jake would tell her stories of the colony wars, of other planets, of machines he had fixed and places he had seen. Maya didn't say much at first, but she listened. And then, one night, she spoke. "When I was little," she said, her voice quiet, "I was sold in a market." Jake looked at her. "I was with my mother. I think she was trying to get us away from something. We hid in a crate on a ship, but someone found us. They took her, I never saw her again. She stared into the fire, eyes blank. They said I was pretty. Rare skin color, good for display. I was moved between ships, cages, auctions. Some buyers were kind. Most were not. Jake felt his fists clench. I don't remember what freedom feels like, she whispered. I only remember hunger, fear, and pain. He reached out and gently touched her hand. She didn't pull away. You're free now, he said. She didn't answer, but for the first time, he saw tears in her eyes. Not from fear, but from hope. The next day, Jake took her up the hill behind the cabin. From there, they could see the valley, the trees stretching far, the rivers winding like silver lines through the forest. Maya's eyes widened. It's beautiful, she said. Yeah, Jake replied. This is where I go when I want to feel quiet. Maya was silent for a while. Then she said, this is the first time I've seen the sky and not felt trapped underneath it. He looked at her. You can stay here as long as you want, he said. No questions. No conditions. She turned to face him. And if someone comes, then we deal with it, together. They stood side by side, watching the sun climb higher. But that peace didn't last long. That night, the comm unit beeped again. Jake checked it in the other room, not wanting to worry Maya. This time, it wasn't a drone alert. It was a news feed. A bounty had been updated. Escaped slave property. Violet-skinned alien female. 5,000 credits. Last seen near outer colony zones. And below it, a grainy image. Maya. Jake stared at the screen, his chest heavy. They were looking for her now, harder than before. And they were offering money. He turned off the screen, slowly walked back to the fire. Maya looked up from where she was sitting. Everything okay? Yeah, he lied. But she saw through it. They're looking for me, aren't they? He didn't speak. Her face didn't change. But her voice did. Then teach me faster. Teach me how to be safe. Maya sat at the edge of the wooden porch, her legs crossed, her eyes fixed on the tree line like she expected something, or someone, to come walking out of it. It had been 3 days since she arrived at Jake's cabin. 3 quiet, careful days. But silence didn't feel peaceful to her. Silence felt like the moment before things got worse. Jake stepped outside, holding 2 metal cups filled with something warm and sweet. He handed one to her, then sat beside her. She sniffed it. What is it? It's tea, he said, from forest leaves. Good for nerves. And nightmares. Maya held the cup but didn't drink. I don't have nightmares. You sure? She nodded slowly. They're not dreams. They're memories. Jake sipped his own tea and looked out toward the woods. Birds chirped softly, and the wind moved through the trees like a whisper. This place is quiet, Maya said after a while. Too quiet for you. No, just strange. My mind doesn't know what to do with peace. Jake smiled gently. We can fix that. She looked at him. You said you wanted to be safe. To learn how. Yes. Then we start today. He didn't begin with weapons or tech. He started with listening. They stood near the trees, eyes closed. What do you hear? Jake asked. Maya frowned. Leaves, birds, wind. What direction is the wind coming from? She turned her head slightly. Left. Good. Now crouch. Tell me what part of the ground is dry. She touched the forest floor, running her fingers over it. This side. Why? The moss is soft. No water. Good again. For hours, he walked her through the forest, teaching her how to move without making noise, how to avoid snapping twigs, how to watch the ground for signs of movement. It wasn't about strength. It was about awareness. When you know your space, Jake said, you know how to hide, how to run, how to survive. But I don't want to run, she said. I'm tired of running. Then we'll make a stand. Later, back at the cabin, he brought out a small black case. He opened it, revealing an old training pistol. Maya stared at it, her face unreadable. "You want me to learn that too?" she asked. "Only if you want to." She picked it up, held it awkwardly. "How does it work?" "Like this," Jake said, guiding her hands. "2 fingers here. Grip tight. Breathe before you pull the trigger." They practiced behind the cabin, aiming at bottles and metal scraps lined up on a fallen log. Her hands shook at first. She missed. Again. And again. But then she hit one. And the sound, clang, echoed through the trees. She didn't smile, but Jake saw her eyes change. Something inside her had shifted, just a little. That night, she ate a little more than usual. And when Jake gave her the blanket, she whispered, "Thank you." The next day, he took her deeper into the forest. They followed animal tracks, identified plants, and even found a clean water stream. Maya washed her hands and face in the cold flow, laughing softly when it tickled her skin. It was the first time Jake had heard her laugh. It wasn't loud, it wasn't bright, but it was real. "Do you miss anything?" she asked suddenly. "Like what?" "Before this, before the cabin." Jake thought for a moment. "I miss music." "What's music?" He looked at her, surprised. "You've never heard music." "Only once. Through a wall. It made me feel strange. Like something inside me wanted to move." He stood, walked to a small bag he'd carried, and pulled out a tiny old recorder. He clicked it on. A soft tune began to play, a human violin, slow and emotional. Maya's eyes widened. She stepped closer, listening like the sound itself was alive. "It's beautiful," she whispered. "That's music," Jake said. "It makes you feel." They sat by the water, listening. And for a moment, there was no pain, no fear, just melody. But peace is never permanent. On the 4th night, Jake woke to a strange light outside the window. He grabbed his scanner. A drone had passed overhead. His breath caught in his throat. He checked the location tag. It was close. Too close. He turned off the scanner and quietly walked to where Maya slept. She was curled under her blanket, peaceful. He hesitated, then touched her shoulder. "Maya, wake up." Her eyes opened fast, alert. "Come with me," he said quietly. He led her to a hidden hatch in the floor, beneath the rug near the fireplace. "You remember this?" She nodded. "If I ever say hide, you get in here. No sound. No light. No movement." "What happened?" "A drone. Scouting." "They're coming," she said. "Maybe." She didn't cry. She didn't panic. She just nodded. "Okay." The next morning, Jake showed her how to scan signals, how to scramble communications, and how to jam trackers. They use heat signatures, sometimes scent. We have to stay cold. Clean. He handed her a small badge-like device. "Wear this under your clothes. It scrambles your thermal output." Maya looked at it like it was a treasure. "Thank you." Jake paused. "Maya," he said slowly, "if this gets worse, if they come." "I'll be ready," she interrupted. "No. I mean, if you ever get a chance to leave, take it. Don't wait for me." She shook her head. "No. I stay. You don't owe me anything." "You gave me a name," she said. "No one else ever did." Those words hung in the air. Soft. Sharp. True. Later that night, Jake found her sitting near the fire, holding the music recorder. She pressed play, and the violin began again. "This sound," she said, "it makes me feel like I'm not broken." Jake sat beside her. "You're not broken, Maya." She turned to him. "Then what am I?" He looked at her, her eyes, her strength, her scars. "You're free. You're strong. And you're learning." She smiled. A small one. "Then teach me more." She ran into my arms. The days had grown quieter again. Jake and Maya followed a routine. Training in the morning, forest walks in the afternoon, and quiet nights near the fire, sharing simple meals and softer stories. Maya had started smiling more. Not always, not big, but enough to make Jake notice. Enough to make the cabin feel less lonely. One morning, Jake carved a small wooden pendant from a fallen branch. He shaped it into a crescent moon and tied it with string. When he gave it to her, she held it like it was something sacred. "What does it mean?" she asked. "Hope," he said. She wore it around her neck. And for the first time, Jake thought, maybe they had a future here. But peace never stays. It started with a sound. Maya was out in the forest, practicing her steps, her weapon grip, her awareness. Jake was working on the rooftop, adjusting the solar panels. Then came the crack. Not thunder, not wind. A sharp mechanical sound. Jake looked up fast. Gunfire. His heart dropped. He ran to the edge of the roof and scanned the trees. Nothing. "Maya," he shouted, leaping down the ladder. No answer. He grabbed his rifle, threw on his boots, and sprinted into the trees, following the path she always used. His chest burned. Branches slapped his face. Fear pounded in his ears. "Please be okay. Please be okay." Then he heard her voice, screaming his name. Jake. He pushed through the trees and saw her, running, fast, eyes wide with terror, blood on her sleeve. And behind her, 3 figures in black armor, chasing her with stun guns raised. Jake didn't think. He raised his rifle and fired a warning shot into the air. Boom. The figures ducked. Maya kept running, straight into Jake's arms. He caught her, pulled her behind a tree, his arms around her tight. "You're hit. Just a scratch," she gasped. They were waiting. "I didn't see them." "It's okay," he said. "You're safe now." He looked around. The forest had gone quiet again. Too quiet. "We have to move," he said. "Back to the cabin." "Go now." "What about?" "I'll handle it." "Go." But Maya didn't move. She grabbed his wrist. "No, we go." He looked at her. She wasn't shaking. She was angry. Jake nodded. "Then stay close." They ran through the trees together, weaving through thick roots and shadows, until they reached the clearing. They burst into the cabin, slammed the door, locked it. Maya leaned against the wall, breathing hard. "You okay?" Jake asked. She nodded. "How many did you see?" 3, maybe 4. One had a mask with red stripes. He knew my name. Jake's heart tightened. They knew who she was. They weren't just random hunters. They were trackers. Trained. Paid. Sent by someone powerful. He checked the comm screen again. Another bounty update had been posted. Target highly dangerous. Do not engage alone. Reward doubled. "They want you alive," he said. Maya's voice was hollow. "For now." He opened the weapon locker, handed her a pulse knife. "You remember how to use it?" "Yes." He paused. "You scared?" "Yes," she said. "Good. Scared keeps you alive." They spent the next hour boarding windows, locking doors, setting traps around the perimeter. Jake activated a stealth shield around the cabin, a field that masked heat and sound, but it only lasted 6 hours. After that, they'd be exposed again. As they worked, Maya stayed quiet. Then, suddenly, she asked, "If I wasn't being hunted, would you still want me here?" Jake turned toward her, surprised. "Why would you ask that?" "Because danger follows me. I bring trouble. And you." "Maya," he said, stepping closer. "You didn't bring trouble. Someone threw you into it. And you ran until you found me." He gently touched the wooden pendant at her neck. "You're not a problem. You're the reason I started living again." She didn't cry, but her lips trembled, and for the first time since she arrived, she stepped into his arms. Not from fear, but from trust. He held her tight, feeling her heartbeat against his chest. And in that moment, Jake knew, if anyone tried to take her, they'd have to go through him first. Night fell. The traps were in place. The weapons loaded. The fire dimmed low. Maya sat with Jake near the hearth, both silent. Then they heard a sound. A branch snapping. Outside, Jake grabbed the rifle. Maya grabbed the knife. They moved to the wall, peeking through a crack in the boards. A figure walked into the clearing, slowly, carefully. Then another. Then a third. Jake cursed under his breath. They found us. Maya whispered, "What do we do?" He looked at her. "We fight smart. We don't let them take this place." She nodded. They waited. The first figure stepped on a tripwire. Clink. A can clattered, and Jake fired through the window. The figure went down. The others dove for cover. Maya threw a smoke ball, and fog filled the room. Jake kicked open the door and took a shot at the second one, who ducked behind a tree. Then silence. Thick, tense silence. Maya stood beside Jake, knife in hand, breathing hard. Then came a voice from the darkness. "Give her up," it said. "You can walk away. We just want the girl." Jake raised his gun. "She's not a girl. She's Maya. And you're not getting her." Silence again. Then a low laugh. "You'll regret that." The voice vanished. No more footsteps. No more sounds. They were gone. But Jake didn't relax. "They'll be back," he said. Maya stepped closer. "Then next time," she whispered, "we finish it. Now I will fight for her." The cabin felt colder the next morning. Even though the fire still burned and the sun was rising, the air carried a weight neither Jake nor Maya could ignore. Jake stood outside, fixing the damage from the night attack. One trap had exploded, burning part of the porch. There were footprints in the dirt, deep ones, heavy boots, trained movement. They had come with purpose, and they would return. Maya sat inside, staring at the wooden pendant he gave her. She held it in her hands like it was the only thing keeping her grounded. Her fingers moved slowly, tracing the shape over and over. When Jake came in, he didn't smile. He didn't need to. She already knew what he was going to say. "We don't have much time," he said. "They'll be back, better armed, maybe with a tracker drone." Maya didn't flinch. "Then we leave." "No," Jake replied. "We fight. You said we couldn't beat them." "Not we. Me. I said I couldn't beat them before. But now I'm not alone." He looked at her, something fierce in his eyes. "Now I have something worth protecting." They spent the rest of the day preparing. Jake opened a locked storage bin buried under the floorboards, his old combat gear from when he served during the colony border wars. Dusty, untouched, but still usable. A black chest plate with light armor, magnetic boots, shoulder lights, a targeting visor. Maya watched him silently as he checked each piece, testing the battery cores, tightening old straps. "You were a soldier?" she asked. "I was a mechanic on the front lines," he said, "but when the base was overrun, I became something else." "Did you kill?" He didn't answer at first, then nodded. "Too many times." She looked at the armor. "Does it make you feel safe?" "No," he said. "It makes me dangerous." He handed her a new pulse knife. Upgraded, sharper, lighter. "I want you to take this. You need it more." "No," Jake said. "I'll be using something bigger." They set up new traps deeper in the forest. Pressure plates hidden under leaves, pulse mines buried beneath old roots, a motion sensor attached to a tree with blinking green lights. Maya worked beside Jake the whole time, never complaining, never slowing down. But Jake could feel something was bothering her. She was quiet. Too quiet. And then, just before sunset, she spoke. "Jake." He turned. She was standing by the river, her back to him, hands at her sides. "There's something I haven't told you." He walked over slowly. Okay. She looked down at the water, her voice barely a whisper. The man chasing me, the one with the red stripe mask, he isn't just a bounty hunter. Jake frowned. Then who is he? Maya's eyes filled with pain. He's my brother. Jake froze. Maya continued. We were taken from our planet as children, sold together. But he joined them. They gave him power. They'd promised him safety if he helped catch others like me. She bit her lip. And I ran. I left him. I couldn't take him with me. I didn't trust him anymore. Jake stepped closer. You had to survive. But he didn't stop looking, she said. He wants to bring me back, to prove he's loyal, or maybe to punish me. I don't know. Jake placed a hand on her shoulder. We'll face him. Together. She turned toward him, eyes wide. You don't have to. I do, Maya, he said. You're not just someone I'm protecting. You're someone I choose to stand with. And if your past is coming for you, then it's coming for me too. She looked like she might cry. But instead, she leaned forward and rested her forehead against his chest. Thank you, she whispered. That night, they didn't sleep. Jake sat by the fire, checking his gear. Maya sat beside him, sharpening the edge of her knife, the wooden moon still hanging around her neck. Do you think we'll win? She asked. We won't win by being stronger, Jake said. We'll win by being smarter, faster, and together. And if we lose, he looked at her, then we lose fighting, not begging. Maya nodded. And for the first time, she smiled. Not a sad smile, not a broken one. A real one. Before dawn, the motion sensor blinked red. They were coming. 3 heat signatures. Fast. Jake turned to Maya. Ready? She gripped the knife. Ready. The plan was simple. Lure. Trap. Divide. And finish. Jake ran to the west edge of the forest, drawing the first pursuer. The trap wire triggered. Boom. Sending shockwaves through the trees. One attacker down. Maya moved like shadow, slipping behind the second figure. She threw the pulse knife. It hit clean, stunning him. She retrieved it before he hit the ground. But the third figure, the man in the red-striped mask, stood in the center of the clearing, untouched. He looked straight at Maya. Sister. She froze. His voice was smooth, calm, but cold. You should have stayed where you belonged. I don't belong in a cage, Maya said. You belonged with me. You chose them. They gave me order, he said. You gave me silence. Betrayal. He raised a high-powered rifle. Maya raised her knife. But Jake stepped between them, gun aimed. Put it down, Jake said. Who are you? The man growled. The one who's going to end this. She's property, he spat. She's nothing. Wrong, Jake said. She's everything. They stood in silence. Then the man fired. Maya screamed. But Jake was faster. The shot hit his shoulder armor, spinning him slightly. But he kept his aim and fired back. The man dropped to one knee, hit in the leg. Maya ran forward, knocking the rifle from his hand. He looked up at her, bleeding, breathing hard. Go ahead, he hissed. End it. Maya stood over him, knife raised. But she didn't strike. She dropped the blade. I don't want to become like you. She turned away. You lost your soul, she said. But I still have mine. An hour later, the bounty signal was deactivated. Jake had used his old codes to report the attacker as a rogue agent, an enemy of the state. The system accepted the report. For now, they were safe again. Back at the cabin, Jake cleaned his wound. Maya helped, quiet but gentle. When he winced, she smiled. You always act tough. I am tough. You're also soft, she teased. He raised an eyebrow. Says the girl who cried over tea. It was good tea, she said. They both laughed. Then Maya leaned against him, slowly resting her head on his shoulder. You fought for me, she whispered. I always will. She closed her eyes, letting her breath fall in rhythm with his. And Jake knew. This wasn't just survival anymore. This was home. War for one girl. 3 days passed. The forest was quiet again. Too quiet. Jake knew it wasn't over. The last fight, the one with Maya's brother, was only the beginning. Whoever owned the system, whoever was putting bounties on living people, they didn't forget. They tracked. They watched. And when the time was right, they came back stronger. Maya knew it too. She hadn't asked for more training. She demanded it. Every morning, before sunrise, they ran drills. Knife, pistol, traps, hand to hand. Jake pushed her hard. Not because he was cruel, but because she asked him to. Because he saw the fire in her eyes now. Not just survival. Freedom. I don't want to be saved anymore, she told him one night by the fire. I want to save myself. And if they come again, I'll make sure they never come for another girl like me. Those words stuck in Jake's heart like a blade. She wasn't just fighting for herself anymore. She was fighting for every silent prisoner, every lost name, every slave who had been told they were nothing. Maya was done running, and so was Jake. That evening, the sky turned red. Not from sunset, from fire. They saw the glow first on the horizon, then the smoke, then the sharp whir of engines above the trees. Ships, not small ones, not bounty hunters, government-grade enforcers. Jake grabbed the scanner and confirmed what he already feared. A raid team. Elite. 6 biosignatures. 3 drones. 1 armored dropship. How long? Maya asked. 15 minutes. Maybe less. She didn't flinch. We hold our ground. Jake looked at her, then nodded. We fight. They activated every trap, powered the shielding unit, loaded every round of ammo. Jake handed Maya a new weapon, something he'd been saving. A modified twin-blade pulse staff. Short range, fast strike, hard to block. Her eyes lit up when she held it. This feels like me. Then use it well, Jake said. She nodded. Then, without warning, she reached out and touched his face. No matter what happens, she said, I choose this. Choose what? You. This moment. My own ending. Jake grabbed her hand gently. Then let's make sure it's not the end. The ground shook. The sky roared. A ship descended just beyond the trees, sending birds flying in every direction. Wind blasted through the clearing. Branches cracked. Trees swayed. Jake and Maya crouched inside the cabin, their backs to the wall, weapons ready. A voice echoed through the speaker system outside. This is Command Patrol Unit 3. Surrender the fugitive. No harm will come to you. Maya whispered, They always say that before hurting you. Jake replied, Yeah, well, I don't like liars. He pressed the button on the detonator. Boom. The first trap exploded, a wall of fire shooting up between the cabin and the landing zone. One soldier screamed. The rest ducked. Jake and Maya ran into position. The war had started. From the trees, Jake took down one drone with a pulse rifle. Maya moved like lightning, spinning the staff, taking out 2-foot soldiers before they could blink. She's fast, one shouted. Target is enhanced. I'm just angry, Maya yelled back, slamming him into a tree. Blood on her cheek. Smoke in her eyes. But she didn't stop. Jake backed her up, covering the flank. He tossed a flash bomb, blinding another soldier, and shot him before he hit the ground. They moved like they had trained for this their whole lives. But then the dropship door opened, and out came him, a man in a long black coat. Tall, armored, face half covered with a silver mask. He wasn't like the others. He didn't run. He walked. Calm. Controlled. He looked at Maya and said only one word. Property. Maya froze. Jake stepped in front of her. Not anymore. The man tilted his head. You're the one hiding her. I'm the one who gave her a name. Then you will die first." He raised his hand and fired. Jake jumped to the side, dragging Maya with him. The blast hit a tree, turning it into splinters. They split up, Jake circling left, Maya going right. But the man was fast. Too fast. He blocked Jake's shot with a shield, then struck him in the ribs with a hard pulse wave. Jake flew back, hitting the ground with a grunt. Maya screamed and rushed in, her staff glowing. She swung once, blocked. Twice, deflected. Then the man caught her by the arm and lifted her off the ground. "You were never more than a tool," he said. "Then you built the wrong weapon," she hissed. She slammed her knee into his chest, twisted, and stabbed him in the neck with a hidden blade from her wrist. He let go. Stumbled. Blood spilled down his collar. Maya landed, breathing hard, hands shaking. Jake got up, limping but still alive. The man dropped to his knees. "You'll be hunted," he whispered. "You think killing me changes the system?" Maya looked at Jake, then back at the man. "No," she said, "but it changes me." Then she walked away. The man fell over, still and silent. When the last drone fell, when the ship engines died, when the smoke finally cleared, it was over. For now. They'd walked together back into the cabin. Bloodied, tired, alive. Maya sat on the floor, breathing hard. Jake poured water for both of them. They didn't talk for a while. Then she spoke. "Do you think they'll come again?" "Probably. Then we keep fighting." "No," Jake said. "We run the signal." Maya frowned. "What?" He smiled. "We don't just fight. We speak. We send a message to every rebel, every planet, every person still in chains." He turned on the old radio transmitter, typing fast. "What are you saying?" Maya asked. He looked at her and said, "We're telling them that one girl fought back, and now the system has a problem." Maya nodded. Her hand slipped into his, and together they sent the signal. "Now she sleeps in my arms every night." The cabin was quiet again. Not with fear this time, but with peace. Jake stood by the window, watching the wind move through the tall trees. The forest had changed. It felt alive now, no longer a place to hide, but a place to grow. Maya sat on the floor beside the fire, curled in a blanket, her eyes following the dancing flames. Her wounds were healing, but the memories still lingered in her eyes. Jake looked at her and smiled softly. "How's the pain?" Maya touched her ribs and shrugged. "It's better than before." "That's good." A quiet pause passed between them. Maya finally said, "I still see his face. The man in the mask. I see him in my dreams. It'll take time." "Do you see the people you fought?" Jake nodded slowly. "Not in dreams, but sometimes in silence." Maya looked at the fire again. "I don't want revenge," she said. "I want peace, but I don't know how to live without fear." "You'll learn," Jake said. "You already are." The next morning, Jake fixed the broken antenna on the roof. Maya brought him tools, standing beside the ladder, handing him wires and clamps like a student helping her teacher. "This wire's damaged," he said. Maya nodded. "I'll find another one." She disappeared into the tool shed and came back with the right cable. "You're getting good at this," Jake said. "You're a good teacher." He smiled. "I don't think anyone said that before." Maya looked up. Then they weren't listening. He stopped for a second, heart caught in his throat. Sometimes she said things that hit deeper than any weapon. They spent the next few days repairing the damage around the cabin. Broken boards, burned wires, half-destroyed traps. But they worked together like a team now. Not soldier and fugitive. Not protector and survivor. But partners. One night, while setting up a new perimeter scanner, Maya stopped walking. "Do you hear that?" she asked. Jake listened. Nothing. What is it? No birds, no bugs, just quiet. He frowned. Maybe something's near. She shook her head. No, this is a different quiet. Not danger, just calm. And he realized she was right. The forest wasn't holding its breath anymore. It was breathing again. The next day, a message came through the radio. Static at first, then a voice. Signal confirmed. Message spread. Rebel stations received it. More escapees arriving soon. Maya looked at Jake. Others like me. Yeah. She turned away, her expression unreadable. Jake stepped closer. Maya, I don't know if I'm ready, she said. To help others. To lead. I still feel broken. He gently placed a hand on her shoulder. But you're not. How do you know? Because they followed your voice, he said. Not mine. They heard your name. She turned to him, her silver eyes full of uncertainty. What if I fail? Jake smiled softly. Then we fail together. 2 weeks later, the first group arrived. 5 escapees, 2 older men, a woman with a child, and a teenage boy who barely spoke. Jake welcomed them in, offered food, water, and shelter. But it was Maya they looked at. She didn't speak much at first, but the child walked to her and touched her hand. Maya knelt down. What's your name? She asked. Leela, the little girl whispered. Maya smiled. Mine's Maya. And in that moment, she became more than free. She became hope. Days passed. More came. Not just aliens. Some humans too. Smugglers, ex-soldiers, silent helpers from the old rebel lines. The cabin became a camp. The camp became a village. And at the center of it all was Maya. Strong, quiet, brave. One night, after most had gone to sleep, Maya stood on the porch, looking at the stars. Jake stepped beside her, carrying 2 mugs of tea. Can't sleep, he asked. Not tonight, she said. I keep thinking. This all started with a knock. Jake chuckled. Yeah, and a girl collapsing on my doorstep. You didn't have to help me. I know. Why did you? He looked at her, eyes steady. Because when you looked at me that night, you didn't look like a stranger. You looked like someone who had been through hell and was still standing. I saw myself in you. Maya didn't speak, but after a moment, she reached out and took his hand. Not fast, not dramatic, just honest. When they went inside, she didn't sit by the fire. She followed him to his room. He paused, unsure. Maya, I still dream, she said, but when I sleep near you, they stop. He didn't move. She stepped closer. Can I stay? He gave the smallest nod. And she climbed into the bed beside him, curling close, head on his chest, hand resting over his heart. Neither spoke for a long time, but they didn't need to. From that night on, things changed. They didn't call it love. Not yet. They didn't need to. What they had was stronger. Maya woke in Jake's arms each morning, and every night she returned to them. She smiled more, laughed sometimes, and Jake, he stopped watching the door, because he wasn't waiting for danger anymore. He had found what he didn't know he was missing. Someone to protect, someone to build a future with, someone who had once been just a starving alien at his door, and now slept in his arms every night.